Hi guys, I'm back, maybe, I don't know, but I wanted to share what's going on in my life right now. We had to move again, which we knew was going to happen, and I needed some time to settle in, and God didn't have anything for me to say. So there are things spiritually going on in my life now, and I have a little bit of direction. I'm also extremely sick. It tends to coincide that when my body's weak, I have a better connection with God. And He speaks. So He uses it in a way that I can't explain. But the thing is, we are commanded to keep the commandments and feed His sheep. That's the disciple part of discipline. And to do what Jesus did, we need to read the whole Bible beginning to end and figure out that Jesus was doing exactly what God had been doing in the Old Testament all over again. He was renewing the covenant. It's not a different covenant. It's the same one. And what you do is between you and God. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. I don't judge anybody. God will take you on the journey that He needs to take you on to get you where you need to go when you need to be there. It is important to ask Him questions. Just ask. Ask, and ye shall receive. Knock, and the door will be opened unto you. Now, you can't seek and you can't knock if you're not asking questions. You can be angry. You can be frustrated. I was lost, not like salvation-wise lost. It's just I didn't see any fruit in my life. I didn't see any fruit in what I was doing for church. I needed spiritual power because I've got 6 kids, 5 of them have ADHD, and I don't function. And God put me in that place, and I had to figure out if a God that loved me would let me suffer, then I need to figure out why. I mean, I'm extremely intelligent. I was going to college while I was having my children and carrying upper level courses, 16 hours, and doing quite well. I maintained a 3.8 grade point average carrying 16 hours and learning science. I was going to try to get a bachelor's of science in nursing to become a nurse midwife. And I get science. I see God's organization all over it. And so I applied that knowledge to the Bible. Well, if God can do this when He created me, and He created the body systems and the mechanics of it, then He's doing that other places, because God is consistent. He works in cycles and patterns, okay? So once you learn what God wants you to do, then you have a choice. You can do it, or you can walk away. But once you have the truth, you have to choose what to do with it. And I chose God. I chose His truth over my Baptist heritage, over Protestant Catholicism, because that's what it is. It's Protestant Catholicism. I didn't want to be under the authority of the Pope. I didn't want to be under the authority of the Pope's holidays and the Roman Catholic traditions. I'm not saying any of these things. You pray about it. You lay it on the altar. You pray about it. And you ask God what He wants you to do. Because He will take you at your pace to where you need to go. And when you are willing to learn, He will bless you. Now, it's not easy. It's a very, very painful process. Very painful. But it's very easy in its simplicity. If you love me, feed my sheep. If you love me, keep my commandments. Jesus didn't make any new commandments, okay? He gave them the commandments in the Old Testament because they needed direction on how to love God and how to love your neighbor as you love yourself. The first part of that's Deuteronomy chapter 6. The second part of that is in Leviticus, and I can't remember the verse reference right now. But you can Google it and you can find it. And the whole thing is just how God asks to be loved. It's one covenant. God has kept both sides of it. But I didn't want God walking my half of our relationship. And really what started this for me was my dad died. My husband was checked out. I was really, really sick. My husband blamed me for my illness and basically thought that I was just lazy. And, I did everything for 13 years in our marriage. I kept the house. I raised the kids. I paid the bills. I took care of the laundry, the dishes, the education, the doctor's appointments. And I have lots of doctor's appointments too. And when my health tanked and crashed, I couldn't do it anymore. And my husband was really very, very angry and resentful because he was working 7 days a week. And he didn't feel like when he got home that he had to do anything. And I understand he was working from like 4 o'clock in the morning, 9 or 10 at night, most of the year. There was about a month in January, he's a UPS driver, and they have a preload that he started in, and you go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, you get off by 9, and then you get insurance and all that, and you have to find a second job to work around that. So my husband had a mowing business and lawn care services. So he did that all the time just to try to keep a roof over our heads, keep the kids fed, and all of that. What I didn't know is I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to set boundaries for my husband and tell him this behavior's not okay. And when I would reach out to him, he felt so overburdened with his work schedule that he just wouldn't deal with it. Wouldn't deal with it at all. Okay? And then it became I was responsible for my illness. And if I would just get my butt in gear, that everything would go back to the way it was. That he could come home, his laundry would be clean. It wouldn't necessarily be put away, but it'd be clean. And the dishes would be done. And I'm not good at all of these things, okay? I'm not good at it. But, the food would be purchased. The food would be on the table or in the fridge or wherever. And he went to work and he came home. He didn't want to help with the kids. He felt like he shouldn't have to, that I should have them well disciplined during the day. And when he came home, that he could be the fun dad. Because that's what he desired. And he didn't understand that that's not how a partnership works. I didn't understand because my mom did everything. My dad became disabled when I was 8 years old. And he has had a lot of the same health issues that I now have. And Mom did everything. And I wanted to be like my mom. When my dad stopped being able to do all the things that he did as a dad, my mom stepped in and took over. Eventually my dad got better. and he found a way to manage. But, I mean, my mom was just excellent. And I felt like I could do that for Keith. The thing is, when I couldn't do it anymore, there was no give and take. I felt so guilty that I couldn't be the mom and the mother that I wanted to be. I couldn't be the wife I wanted to be. And if I could just be the best wife possible and love my husband, that he would love me. But he didn't. He said he did, but he didn't know how to show healthy boundaries and love to me. And it became emotionally abusive. Now, we're not in that place anymore. But it does affect my health, because when I feel emotions strongly, good or bad, it makes the fibromyalgia 10 times worse. And I couldn't talk to him. He didn't want to be an organized helper with our 6 kids. He was just tired and frustrated. So through this, I had God. I found YouTube. I had God. And if I couldn't read and study my Bible, I could listen to it. And if a God that loves me would let me be in this position with these 6 children that he blessed me with, then he was going to provide a way through it. My job is to put my feet on the path and keep walking. Pick up your cross and follow me. That's all it is. How did Jesus carry that yoke? He kept the commandments. Not so that we didn't have to, because the law can't save you. He showed us the balance between love and discipline, and not to keep the traditions of men. The rabbis had taken over. They had pitched out the Torah of Moses, the law that God gave to Moses face to face. And yes, there's some language things about how that worked that I don't really want to get into. But he reached out and Moses was willing to serve. But that covenant was the same covenant that he gave to Abraham, that he gave to Moses, that he gave to David, that he gave to Joseph. It's the same covenant he offers us today. The difference is that Jesus paid for the curse of the law. The law is not a curse. The law is a blessing. It tells us what sin is so we can stop doing it. And there's a lot of people in the world. A lot of people in the world. And each of them needs some case law on how to love God, and how do you love your neighbor, and how do you love yourself. Well, how does he teach that? How does he teach that to every man, woman, child, and sinner among us? That's why the Bible's so big, because you can read it and you can know the mind of God and how he works, and understand that if you don't keep his commandments, that you won't be in his covenant protection, and that you're going to have to be corrected. Okay? Correction's not fun. But every loving parent corrects their children. And God had a lot of correcting to do. He got the people out of the Egypt, but he didn't get the Egypt out of the people. because they wouldn't repent. They wouldn't turn from those ways. And we keep dragging Egypt into our worship of God. God doesn't want Mithra, Apollo, sun worship, holidays. Not that he doesn't accept our praise and our worship when that's all we know. But when you figure out those things are not the holidays that he gave us, and you want to do things his way because you love him and not your preferred denomination of flavor of the week, then you want to do things in a way how he speaks love, what his love language is. And for me, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and my husband didn't love me, but God did. And if God loved me, and I needed love in a way that spoke to me, then I needed to give God the love that spoke to him in the way that he asks. The law does not save. That's what everybody gets so confused about in Paul. All the law is correction. If you murder, which is killing somebody in hate, it's not killing, it's killing somebody in hate, then, it's Cain and Abel. It's wrong. It's a heart problem. You kill somebody in defense, it was in the providence of Yah. And it's hard to deal with, but it happens. We make mistakes. Other people make mistakes. I can't change the world, but I can change me, and I can change my family. So if I want God to have the authority over my life, I do things the way that Jesus did. Jesus didn't eat pork. That sheep vision, when you read the entire encounter, was about God made these people clean from the inside. And because he made them clean on the inside, that whether or not they ate pork wasn't the problem. They just had to learn. They were babies. They had to learn. Now, will eating pork send you to hell? No, it will not. But it's a question of authority. If you recognize him as your husband or your father, your brother, whatever, what authority are you giving him in your life? If God made me and God made the pig, he can tell me what to do with his pig. And do you have to do it? No, you don't. It's simple. I don't care what you do. As long as it doesn't affect me and my kids and my walk with God, then that's between you and him. I just want people to ask questions. And now where I'm sitting, 10 years later, I met God, had a road to Damascus moment many a time, and now my husband is starting to keep Torah. I have prayed for that for years. Sorry, my kids are coming in and out of the room. Can you lock the door, Anna Grace? Thank you. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I just wanted for God what I wanted for myself, which was love and acceptance. And now my husband is, as Bear Independent would say, you guys need to check out his channel if you haven't. He's starting to do the things like being respectful. I learned how to set healthy boundaries and say, if you keep up with this behavior, you're killing me. I can't do this with my health issues. It sucked. That's not what I wanted. But I hadn't given him any boundaries to say, you've pushed me too far, and your actions, because of my health, are going to kill me. People with fibromyalgia, the number one cause of death is suicide, because you hurt no matter what you do, all day, every day. I am never not in a flare. Some people go in and out with it, and I'm stuck. Some days are better than others, but if my brain's up and running, then my body hurts. So I had to set healthy boundaries for him. And it took a couple of years of saying, you're not going to treat me this way. If you choose to treat me this way, then you can be free to do whatever it is that you want to do, and God and I will figure this out. So after my husband realizing that he did want to stay, and I set healthy boundaries for them. When we lived with my mom, I had a buffer. And when my mom had to correct him, he started to learn. My mom actually had to come into our room. We were staying in her garage. And my mom had to come into my room. Her bedroom was on the other end of the house, and he was yelling at me so loudly, and standing over me and yelling at me so loudly, that she could hear him at the opposite end of the house. And she said, you're not going to do this to my daughter anymore. If you want to go, go, but you're not doing this here. And he stopped. And when it came time that we found a place to move into temporarily, I had to sit him down and say, if you start yelling at me again and treating me the way you treated me, without my mom there to protect me and the kids are out of here. We will go back and we will live with my mom, and you can live wherever you can figure out a place, but you will support me and you will support the kids, and you will do what you need to do. Miraculously, he did what he needed to do. He just needed a boundary. He set some healthy boundaries for me too. And to the best of my ability, I try to keep up with them. I'm not great at it, but I am attempting to do what I need to do in the capability that I have. And it's taken a lot of healing, because I made some really bad mistakes. Zach, you need to head out, buddy. No.